Hey guys, tonight we're heading into a place that officially doesn't exist. According to maps, historians, and probably your high school geography teacher. You're standing in the middle of the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter of Arabia. 400,000 square miles of heat, sand, and more sand. But there, wobbling in the mirage like a lie with confidence, is something different. Ancient. Architectural. And you're not hallucinating, probably. You blink, it doesn't vanish. You take another step, your boots sinking just slightly into a layer of fine, whispering grit. The sun hovers like a molten coin in the sky, and the heat presses on your shoulders like the world's most aggressive electric blanket. Your lips are cracked, your water's low, and somewhere deep in your gut, you know, you probably won't survive this. But hey, at least it's not boring. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're already curled up, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge closer. The structure comes into focus, crumbling sandstone walls that glint faintly with flecks of mica, like someone tried to carve a mirage into permanence. There's no modern ruin like it. No broken down cars. No graffiti. Just columns. Pillars, really, that seem too symmetrical for nature and too worn for modernity. 8 of them, each rising from a sunken plaza like fingers reaching from a grave. And there's silence. Heavy, deep, like even the wind forgot how to blow here. You step between 2 pillars. Something in the temperature shifts. Cooler. Just slightly. It's like entering shade, though there's nothing above. You glance up. The sky's still that same oppressive blue, with heat rippling like invisible silk. In a corner of the plaza, you spot something metallic, buried. You dig, not with urgency, more with the casual curiosity of someone who's already accepted they're either going to discover something amazing or get cursed into oblivion. Maybe both. Probably both. It's a coin. Bronze. Maybe copper. Not modern. Definitely not Saudi. The script is unfamiliar. Curved, looping, almost like Sanskrit and Arabic had an intense weekend together and never called each other again. The face shows a tower, slender and impossibly tall. The kind of thing gravity side-eyes, and your brain stirs. Because somewhere in some half-watched documentary, or that one podcast you fell asleep to, you remember a phrase, Iram of the Pillars. A city said to be like no other, lost beneath the sands, punished by God, envied by angels, whispered about in verses and curses. The Quran mentions it. Iram, the city of the pillars, whose like has never been built in the land. That's not casual poetry. That's suspiciously specific for a book not known for fiction. Historians still argue whether Iram was a real place or just metaphor, a symbol of excessive pride brought to ruin. But here, with your fingers wrapped around an ancient coin and your eyes locked on pillars that match that very description, metaphor just got a whole lot more material. A chill brushes your spine. which is impressive considering the 108 air temperature. You walk further in. The plaza has shallow steps leading down, half swallowed by drifting sand. Each step creaks underfoot, not because it's wood, this isn't a horror movie, but because your mind insists that something ought to groan in response to your presence. On the lowest level, a mosaic, mostly intact, sprawls out like a forgotten carpet. It depicts camels. No surprise. Palm trees. Predictable. But then, towers again. Too many. Rising too high. And in the sky, a shape that doesn't make sense. Wings, but wrong. Like an angel sketched by someone who had never seen a bird. Or mercy. You crouch, tracing the tiles. The work is intricate, and still glossy in places. Whoever built this wasn't just rich. They were obnoxiously rich. Like gold sinks in your bathwater rich. You get the sense this place wasn't a humble village. It was a statement piece. Then you hear it. Not loud, not aggressive, just a whisper. Not words, more like an exhale. But it comes from nowhere in particular. Just there. Ambient. Like the stones themselves remembered how to sigh. Now logic says it's wind. Echo. Your own breath rebounding. But logic also said this city didn't exist. So you step through a doorway, or what's left of one. Inside is a chamber, rectangular, empty except for a single basin in the middle. No water, just dust. But the walls are covered in carvings, reliefs etched deeply, like they were meant to last forever, and they almost did. Figures in robes, tall, spindly towers, stars, over and over again, some circling a central eye. One panel shows a man bowing before what looks like a flame, while behind him, others turn to stone, literally. Their skin becomes bricks in real time. Subtle. You realize this place isn't just ancient. It's angry. Everything about it speaks of punishment, of downfall, of a place that dared to reach too far upward and was shoved violently down into the sand for its trouble. You leave the chamber, unsettled. The sun's moved, lower now, redder, more menacing. Shadows stretch longer than they should, curling around the pillars like they're trying to remember their purpose. Then you notice the tracks. Human, barefoot, leading into a narrow arch at the far side of the ruins. Fresh. Your breath catches in your throat, somewhere between excitement and, wow, I'm about to die in a very Wikipedia-worthy way. You follow, of course, because at this point, you're committed and probably dehydrated enough that basic survival instinct has been replaced by narrative momentum. You duck through the arch. The air is cooler again, and for a second, you think you hear water. It's not water. It's chanting. Low rhythmic. Not hostile. Not yet. But definitely real. You're not alone in Iram. Section 2. The chanting fades the moment you step into the passage. Not like it moves away. More like it folds inward. Disappears into itself. Like a breath drawn too deep and never released. You pause, The arch behind you still shows sunlight, bright and baking. But ahead, it's dim, cooler. The air changes. It's not just the heat receding, it's the weight. The kind of shift that tells your brain, this isn't just underground. It's under something. Under history. Under memory. Maybe under judgment. You take a step forward. The ground changes beneath your boots, shifting from coarse desert grit to finely packed stone, smooth and cool like marble. It doesn't fit. There's no quarry for hundreds of miles, which means the people who built this either imported it or carved it from something older than even the myths admit. Ahead, your path opens into a circular chamber. At first, it's empty, but then your eyes adjust, and there it is. A single pillar rising from the floor like a broken tooth. Carved with rings of strange writing, some still shimmering faintly as if recently etched. It's not Arabic, not Sanskrit, not even Sumerian, but something about it scratches at your memory like a song you've heard in a dream. The pillar leans ever so slightly, as though caught in the act of rising from the earth but frozen mid-motion. Around its base, scorch marks, old, faint, but real. There's a smell here, too. Not unpleasant. Earthy. Spiced. Like sandalwood left too long in a fire. You inhale and instantly regret it. Your vision tilts just slightly. A whisper, not in your ears but behind your eyes. And just one word. Iram. You spin. The chamber is still empty, but on the wall behind you, there's now a shadow that wasn't there before. Human-shaped, standing still. You blink again, and it's gone. And suddenly you understand why people don't talk about Iram. Because they used to. A lot. It's in old poetry, tribal songs, even Bedouin curses. Once upon a time, everyone in Arabia whispered about the lost city of pillars, the city that reached so high it offended the heavens. And then the whispers stopped. Abruptly. Historians still argue whether Iram was a real place or just a parable for hubris. Some link it to Ubar, a trading post allegedly swallowed by a sinkhole after overusing its water supply. Others claim it's an Islamic reimagining of Sodom, a city so corrupt it was erased from history itself. And then there are the fringe theorists. You know, the YouTube archaeologists with drones and dangerous enthusiasm. They claim satellite images show straight lines under the dunes, roads that lead nowhere, unless they once led here. But those images got buried, along with the researchers. Funding pulled, files missing. One guy swears his data vanished after a visit from men who didn't give names. You stumble back from the pillar, hand brushing its surface. It's warm, not desert warm, alive warm. And that's when you hear the voice. Faint, cracked, female. You've come too soon. You whip around, still nothing there. But now you feel the room watching. You push forward, away from the whisper, toward a narrow corridor. This one slants downward. The air turns damper, and you smell it again. That ancient perfume. Not synthetic, not bottled. Something wild and floral, heavy with resin and memory, like jasmine and rot. The corridor ends in a small alcove, Here someone or something has left items. 3 things resting on a low stone shelf. First, a rusted dagger, thin, curved, decorated with gold inlay worn nearly flat. The hilt is wrapped in something that might have once been silk. Second, a jar, sealed, cracked, containing what looks like honey, but darker, almost red, dried around the edges. Third, a mirror, small, bronze, polished to near perfection despite its age. And the moment you look into it, you flinch. Because the face that stares back isn't entirely yours. The proportions are right. The eyes are yours. But they're older, wiser. And behind you, in the mirror's reflection, is that same shadow you saw in the chamber. Closer now. Watching. Patient. You set the mirror down carefully, pretending not to panic. The walls of the alcove are painted. Murals, barely clinging to the stone, faded and cracked but still haunting. One depicts a city glowing under stars. Another shows merchants, camels, and towers topped with flame. But the third shows the city sinking. Not from water, not from fire, but from sand, rising like a wave, swallowing towers, pulling people down like quicksilver, and above it all, a god, or something pretending to be one, watching with a blank, eyeless face. You step back, and behind you, the air ripples, just slightly. There's someone in this ruin. You turn and see a flicker of motion at the corridor's end. Instinct says chase. Curiosity agrees. You follow. The tunnel twists, then opens into a larger chamber, oval-shaped, lined with niches, each holding a statue. 15 at a glance, maybe more. But none are intact. Each has been broken, deliberately. Faces smashed, arms severed, some decapitated, others hollowed out, as if their stone hearts had been carved away. And at the far end of the chamber, a raised dais, a throne, or maybe an altar. It's hard to tell. The line between reverence and power is thin when it's that old. The seat is empty, but the scent is stronger here. And next to the throne is a name, etched into the floor in curling script you somehow understand. Not because you read it, but because it bypasses language and lands straight in your chest. She who knows the sky. You swallow. Because now the stories flood back. About the ruler of Iram. Always feminine in the older texts. Never named. Just titles. The Queen of Pillars. The Listener. The one who watched the stars until they blinked first. And if those titles sound like something out of sci-fi or fantasy, well, you're standing in a city that doesn't officially exist. Let's not get picky. Then a whisper again. Closer. Do not look for her name. You spin too fast, and your head swims. That perfume again, heavier than ever. But no one is there. Just that same sensation. You are not alone. You take one last glance at the broken statues, each with features just too human, too detailed. Were these gods, people, Visitors? No answers. Just another hallway, and more chanting. But this time you know it's not in your head. You step forward. The city of Iram is not as dead as it looks. Section 3. The chanting wraps around you now, curling through the corridor like a living thread of sound. You can't place the language. It's melodic, pulsing in a rhythm that feels older than any religion you've ever studied. It's not just heard, it's felt. Like a heartbeat. Like the desert itself is remembering something. You round the bend and see flickering light ahead. Orange and gold dancing across the sandstone walls. Not fire, not quite. It doesn't crackle. It pulses, like a breath held between centuries. You step into a vast circular chamber, massive, cathedral-sized. The walls slope upward into a domed ceiling that somehow still holds together. Every inch is carved with stars. Not the random pinpricks of a child's drawing, but an actual star map. Familiar constellations twist among unknown ones, and in the very center, etched in obsidian, is a black star that looks like it's been burned into the stone with hate. Directly beneath it, on the floor, is a circle of robed figures. 15 of them, kneeling, still too still. Their robes are tattered, ancient. You can't see their faces, just folds of cloth and brittle fingers curled in prayer. No movement, no breath. But the chanting, it's louder now, clearer, because it's not coming from them. It's coming from above. You tilt your head. On the ceiling, in the very center of the dome, is a balcony, a slim platform barely visible unless you're looking directly at it. And standing there, arms raised, face obscured by shadow, is a figure. You can't see much, just the glint of golden fabric, the flash of silver rings on fingers that move with slow, ritual precision. And then she speaks, not chanting, just words, soft, echoing. You should not have come. And then, like a candle blown out, she's gone. The balcony empties. The chanting stops. And the kneeling figures, they collapse, all at once, as if whatever force was animating them simply turned off. They fall like puppets with their strings severed. No drama, no sound. Just a collective sigh of fabric and bone. You're frozen. Not because you're afraid. Not exactly. But because your brain has decided that standing still is the safest option when confronted with what exactly? Ghosts? Servants? A reenactment? You step forward, past the bodies. The floor beneath your feet is warm again. Like in the pillar chamber, alive warm, memory warm. At the center of the dome, beneath that obsidian star, lies a stone tablet, rectangular, smooth, but carved with symbols that shimmer faintly the longer you stare. You crouch, your fingers graze the edge, and suddenly you see it. Not in front of you, but inside. Flashes, snapshots, the city alive, pillars shining, people laughing, water in the fountains, music in the air, spices, trade, gold so abundant it was used to tile ceilings, and then storms, not sand, not wind, but light, Pillars cracking, people screaming, the queen standing defiant beneath the black star, eyes closed, arms outstretched, absorbing something, a choice, a punishment, and then nothing. Darkness. You pull your hand back. Your breath catches. The vision fades. You're not sure how long you sat there. Long enough that when you look up, the chamber is changing, not physically, but in tone. The murals around the room are shifting. Or maybe your brain is just filling in what time and erosion have worn away. You see depictions of sacrifices, rituals carried out beneath eclipses, blood poured into silver bowls, words shouted into the void. Not in desperation, in arrogance. Iram wasn't just a rich city. It was a proud one. Too proud. And now the consequences of that pride linger in the bones of its dead and the silence of its halls. Historians still argue whether Iram's downfall was divine wrath, environmental collapse, or political rebellion. One theory even suggests the city tapped into some forgotten technology, something not meant for mortals, and triggered a cataclysm. But standing here, the answer seems obvious. They asked for something, and they got it. You turn away from the altar and move toward an arched doorway barely visible in the gloom. The passage beyond is tight, winding, like an intestine carved through stone. Your torchlight catches glimpses of things scratched into the walls, symbols. Some are stars, others eyes and mouths, always open, always screaming. Then you see a phrase, this time in Arabic, roughly translated. She watches still. You pause, because the tone is not reverent. It's a warning. And sure enough, just around the bend, the air shifts. Not wind, more like pressure. The way your ears pop before a storm. And then footsteps, not yours, soft, measured, coming toward you. You turn your light off. Darkness swallows you whole. You press against the wall, hold your breath. The footsteps grow louder, closer. But when they pass by, you see nothing. No shape, no shadow. Just the sense of something very tall, very old, and very, very disappointed in your presence. When it's gone, you exhale. A shaky, post-near-death experience kind of breath. You move again. The passage opens into a smaller chamber. No murals, no statues, just a well. Dry. Covered in carvings that spiral down into the darkness like a warning label on a cursed energy drink. You lean over. Not too close, but close enough to hear it. A whisper from far, far below. Your name. Just once, but perfectly pronounced. And no one here knows your name. You step back. This city, it remembers, and it's learning. Section 4. You back away from the well slowly, like it might lunge upward and grab your ankle if you move too fast. It doesn't. But the whisper lingers in your ears like smoke from a candle you didn't light. Your name, in a place older than your country, whispered from a dry well that hasn't seen water in over 1,000 years. You swallow hard and move on. The corridor slopes gently upward now. You hadn't even noticed the incline before. That's the thing about this place. It rearranges itself just enough to keep you disoriented, but not enough to make you panic. Yet. Eventually, the air shifts again, drier this time, warmer. And ahead, through a cracked archway, you spot something new: sunlight. You step into a half-buried courtyard, and for a moment, you forget to be tense. Because this place, it's beautiful. Really. Truly. Like a pocket of time that refused to decay. Vines you can't identify bloom with crimson flowers. The air smells like frankincense and cinnamon, but also like petrichor, the scent of rain that hasn't touched this land in centuries. In the center of the courtyard is a low stone table, and on it, a scroll. Not hidden, not guarded, just waiting. You approach, and for once nothing whispers at you. No visions, no crumbling ghosts. Just the scroll neatly rolled and tied with what might be camel hair thread. You untie it, carefully. Your fingers feel oddly steady. It's a map, not a modern one. This isn't your average tourist souvenir from a Lost Cities of Arabia gift shop. It's hand-drawn, sketched with ink that's faded to the color of dried blood. And it's detailed. Topography, wind currents, underground aquifers. But the center? The very heart. A symbol you now know by instinct. Iram. The pillars are marked. So is the altar chamber. But what draws your eye is a section labeled only with a single glyph. One you saw on the throne back in the Star Dome. It glows faintly now on the page, even in sunlight. Beneath it, in smaller writing, is something in Greek. You squint. It says, "Do not follow the queen." Of course, you're Trump mode. You're going to follow the queen, because apparently, survival instinct has been overwritten entirely by your main character energy. As you study the map, the courtyard subtly shifts again. You glance up, and now there's someone else standing at the far end. A man. Or something shaped like one. He's tall. Too tall. Dressed in flowing robes the color of wet ash. His face is veiled, but not by fabric. It's like sand blowing across glass, hiding the details but not the form. You open your mouth, and he raises a single finger. Silence, and somehow you obey. He points at the scroll, then to the northeast corner of the map. Then vanishes. No puff of smoke, no shimmer, just gone. You stare at the space he occupied for a beat longer than necessary, just to make sure you're not losing it completely. But the footprint he left behind tells you it happened. And now, you have a destination. You trace your path on the map with your finger, and you notice something odd. It's drawn as if you're seeing the land from above. Not just a bird's eye view, but something more. Like whoever drew this had a vantage point higher than the clouds. You move. The courtyard fades behind you, swallowed by drifting sands and time. You wonder briefly if it'll still be there when or if you return. The new corridor is different, cleaner, sharper lines. The architecture shifts subtly from grand and ceremonial to functional. Storage chambers, side halls, passageways that once carried food, supplies, water, and then rooms, living quarters, dozens of them, each one perfectly square, carved into the rock with mathematical precision that would make Pythagoras weep. Most are empty. A few still hold collapsed furniture, fragments of ceramic bowls, broken tablets. But one room is pristine. A sleeping mat, still rolled. A carved headrest. A bowl of dried figs that somehow haven't rotted. You lean in close. The figs smell edible. You don't eat one. You're not that bold. But you do notice something strange on the far wall. A mural of stars, not unlike the dome chamber. But these are moving, very slowly, like a night sky rotating. You blink. They stop. You blink again. They're different. The constellations have changed, which means this mural has been tracking the stars for how long? Decades? Centuries? You look closer, and beneath one cluster of stars, Scorpius maybe, there's a name, or at least what looks like one. Nafir-at. Your lips form the word before your brain approves. It tastes wrong, like ash and honey, but the air reacts. The walls pulse, just faintly, and a door opens where none existed before. This place is a maze, a labyrinth not of logic, but of memory and myth. The new room is colder and darker, but it smells of knowledge, like ink, parchment, and decisions. Shelves line the walls, stone shelves, etched with numbers and glyphs. On them, tablets, scrolls, books bound in materials that haven't existed since the last ice age. You pick one up, it crumbles to dust, but not before you see the words queen and star sickness in the same sentence. You try another. This one holds. The text is handwritten, slanted, fast. It's a diary, a first-person account from a merchant, one who visited Iram before its fall. He writes of the queen, radiant, wise, terrifying. He says she did not age, not because of magic, but because she drank the sky, that's his phrase. Drinks from the sky, and thus time forgets her. You sit back, drink the sky, some kind of ancient ritual, poison, or something else. Some scholars have long speculated that pre-Islamic Arabia had rituals that bordered on what we'd call shamanism or proto-astronomy. There are even fringe theories, again, your favorite YouTubers, that ancient civilizations found ways to consume certain minerals or radiation from meteorites. But none of those theories prepared you for what you read next. She said the sky offered her a choice: rule with silence or speak and be forgotten. She chose the former. You don't know what that means, but you know it's important. You put the scroll down gently, and behind you, a whisper. You've seen enough. This time, it's not a threat. It's a warning. And it's too late, because now you have to follow the queen. Section 5. The chamber breathes behind you as you step into the next passage. Not figuratively, literally. You feel the air pulse at your back like the city is exhaling in frustration, or disappointment, or hunger. It's hard to tell with ancient ruins. The map leads northeast toward a part of the city that doesn't feel like a ruin at all. The stonework is newer, less decayed, as if time itself politely decided to stop aging this particular section, which is unsettling. Your boots crunch on what looks like mosaic tile, more geometric here. Triangles interlocked with 6 pointed stars, all spiraling toward the center of the corridor. Someone had an obsession with precision, or spirals, or both. And each tile hums faintly underfoot. You slow your pace, Ursha. You're not entirely sure why. And then you hear it. A sound you haven't heard in days. Maybe weeks. Maybe centuries. Time stopped keeping track somewhere back near the perfumed ghost chamber. Breathing. Not yours. Not labored. Not panicked. Steady. You press yourself to the wall, peeking ahead. The corridor opens into a cavernous space. High ceilings, columns that reach so far up they vanish into darkness. And standing in the middle of it, silhouetted by shafts of golden dust light piercing through cracks in the ceiling, is a person. Or a shape. Human in outline, but just barely. Tall, thin, clad in long robes that sway without wind. The fabric doesn't shimmer. It absorbs light, like it's made from eclipse and silence. They don't turn toward you, but you know they know. The figure raises one hand, and the floor trembles. Sand pours from the walls, not like a collapse, but like an offering. The figure speaks, not loudly, not with any urgency, but their voice enters your bones like cold water through cracked tile. Down, they say, and the floor obeys. You fall, not dramatically, not flailing, just descend. Like an elevator without cables or buttons or OSHA regulations. The stone platform lowers into darkness, smooth and quiet, until it touches down in a chamber so still it might not even be real. You're underground now, deep. The kind of deep that makes your ears pop and your brain question gravity. And ahead of you, a door. Not carved, not built, grown like bone, or coral, or petrified roots. It pulses once when you approach, and then it opens. Behind it, the city beneath the city, the real Iram. The part built not for trade or worship or vanity, but for containment. You know this instantly, because the architecture changes again. No more elegance, no more symmetry. The walls here are functional, crude, reinforced with materials you can't identify, some kind of alloy that catches your light and bends it sideways. There are chains, not attached to anything now, but massive, thick as your arm, bolted into the stone with ancient inscriptions etched around the mounts. This was a prison, or a vault, or maybe both. You press forward. The air here is dense, not stale, dense, like you're breathing history, and beneath that history, something else, something alive. You reach what might once have been a central chamber. It's circular, Of course. Iram loves its circles. The walls are covered in symbols again. These ones different. Not decorative. Instructional. You pause at one. It shows a human figure. Then that figure split into two, then again, until they're unrecognizable. A warning. A ritual. Historians still argue whether ancient Arabian mysticism was purely symbolic, or if they genuinely believed certain knowledge could fracture a person. Some texts describe mirror rituals and soul-splitting incantations used to access divine knowledge or to protect it. You hope this is symbolic. You really do. At the center of the room is a platform, no throne, no altar, just a place to stand. So you do, because again, your survival instincts are just tired now. When your foot touches the center, the walls hum, and then a voice, her voice. You've come far for something you do not understand. You look around, no one. Just the voice vibrating gently against your ribs. Iram did not fall, she says. It shed. And with that, images flood your vision. Not memories, not quite. Downloads. You see Iram, not as it is, but as it was. Towering spires, golden domes, streets lit by flame that didn't burn. And above it all, the Queen. Cloaked in fabrics woven from night sky, eyes like eclipse rings. You watch her stand before her people. You feel their adoration, and you see their fear, because she's changed. Her body, still human, but altered, thinner, taller, slightly off. Like a statue carved a degree too sharp. She speaks of a visitor, not a god, not a demon, something in between, something from the stars, or maybe the void between them. She calls it the breath that teaches, and she welcomes it. You watch as she drinks from a bowl filled with light. You feel the heat of it on your own tongue. Sweet, metallic, infinite. And then the visions twist. The Queen grows more distant, less connected. The city thrives for a time. Trade, power, luxury. But soon things begin to fracture. People change, or vanish. The ground becomes unstable. The stars don't move the way they should. And the Queen, now more shadow than woman, declares the city must be hidden. Not destroyed, hidden, beneath sand, beneath memory, to protect the world, to protect you. The vision ends. You're sweating, shaking. The chamber is silent again. But one last image lingers. A gate. Not in this room, but close. Marked with the Queen's seal. You have to find it. Because now, you carry the memory. And you need to know if it's a burden or a key. Section 6. You leave the chamber like a man stepping off a dream. Not waking, just changing dreams. The kind where everything looks familiar, but all the rules have quietly stopped applying. The hallway leading out is smooth again, unnervingly so, like it was bored of erosion. The walls are darker here, carved from a kind of stone that doesn't belong anywhere near the Arabian Peninsula. It shimmers faintly, Not like gold or crystal, but like obsidian with an attitude. Your torch flickers once, then steadies. The air is colder than it should be, but not unpleasant. It smells like perfume. Not the musky, ancient kind you've encountered so far. This one's fresh and unmistakably floral. You step into another large chamber, and then you freeze. It's not because of danger. Not yet. It's because of beauty. The room is shaped like a flower, 8 petal-like alcoves curving out from a central stem. Each alcove holds a sculpture, and the central space is dominated by a low stone pool, long since dry but still lined with what looks like mother of pearl. But it's the statues that catch you. Each one depicts a woman, each different, each unsettling. One wears a crown of snakes, another a mask made of feathers. One seems to hold the moon itself in her hands. They're not lifelike. They're something more. Not idealized, not stylized. Just accurate. Terrifyingly accurate. You approach the nearest alcove. The figure is seated, legs crossed, hands resting palms up. On her lap, a bowl, still full. You lean in. It's myrrh, fresh, viscous, glossy. You check your torch again. It's not burning out. The air isn't playing tricks. This room exists, and it's been maintained. By who? Or what? You don't ask aloud. That feels like the kind of question that gets answered with consequences. As you move toward the center pool, you notice something strange. The walls around each statue are etched with not just symbols, but faces. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, each one distinct, each one frozen in an expression of either awe or horror. No in between. They're watching the statues, or maybe they're praying to them. One face seems particularly recent, not carved, but burned into the stone like a shadow scorched during a lightning strike. It looks like a man, wearing modern clothing, wide-eyed, mouth open, as if the last thing he ever saw was exactly what you're looking at now. You don't stay there long. You move to the next alcove. This one's different. Instead of a statue, there's a pile of bones, carefully arranged, almost reverently. Human, definitely human. But wrong. The ribs are too many. The skull is elongated slightly, like it was pulled up, not crushed. And something glints among the bones. A ring. You pick it up. It's engraved on the inside. A single phrase. May I be worthy of her breath. Okay then. You slide the ring into your pocket and try not to think about what her breath might be, or what it does to rib cages. You move on. The next alcove holds a mirror, not a reflective surface. A mirror. Capital M oval. Framed in some metal you can't name. Etched with spiraling lines that twist the longer you look. The surface doesn't show your reflection. Instead, it shows stars. Not the sky outside. Stars that move too fast. That pulse, that blink, and then her. Not fully. Just the eyes. The same ones from your earlier visions. Ringed with black. Patient. Knowing. terrible, and then gone. The mirror fogs, the stars vanish, and your own face slowly fades into view. You look tired. You move on. The next alcove smells like cinnamon and copper, blood and incense. A pedestal holds a scroll too fresh to have survived this long. Your fingers twitch toward it, then stop. You remember the last time you touched something that looked too fresh in this city. You leave it be. 3 alcoves left. One holds a mural, not a statue. A city, tall towers, pillars, a sky filled with something that is not the sun. And at the center of it all, a woman standing in a circle of flame, holding a book that bleeds ink. Below it, in a language that feels like a dare to translate, she gave us truth, and it hollowed us. You feel that one in your chest, hard. The second to last alcove is empty, but the floor is covered in footprints, fresh, bare, no dust, and they lead toward the last alcove. You already know what's there. You walk slowly. The final alcove holds her. Not a statue, not a vision, but a preserved body, lying peacefully on a carved slab, hands folded, hair fanned around her head like a halo of ink. She's perfect. Not in the movie star sense, in the alien sense. Her skin is too smooth, her features too symmetrical, like something dreamed rather than born. And she is definitely not dead. She is breathing, barely, softly. The rise and fall of her chest is so subtle it almost matches the torch flicker. You don't speak. You don't move. And yet, her eyes open. Not wide, just enough. And in that glance you feel everything. The stars, the fall, the pride, the punishment, the loneliness. She doesn't speak, but she doesn't have to. You already know what she wants. To be followed, to be understood, and maybe, just maybe, to be freed. But first, you have to survive the next chamber, the one beneath this one. You glance around, and there it is. A spiral staircase you hadn't noticed, carved from the same pearl-colored stone as the pool. Descending. Down. Down where? Only one way to find out. You take the first step, and above you, she exhales. Section 7. The staircase swirls beneath your feet like it was carved by a god with obsessive-compulsive disorder. Every step the same size. Every curve precisely 90 degrees. No dust, no debris, just stone, smooth as glass, curling downward into silence. After 20 steps, you stop counting. After 40, your ears pop again. At 70, you start to feel it. The pressure, not physical, not atmospheric, existential. Like reality is trying to decide if you still belong to it. And halfway down, because of course it's only halfway, you notice the light. It doesn't come from your torch. It comes from below, soft, violet, unnatural. You step faster. Whatever's waiting down there, It wants to be found. At the base of the stairs, the passage opens into another chamber. You're losing count of chambers. Iram's architectural philosophy is never build one room where 12 unnecessarily mysterious ones will do. But this one is different. It's not a room. It's a crypt. A wide, echoing dome of black marble etched with a million tiny dots. Like someone tried to recreate the night sky using a dull knife and infinite free time. In the center, a tomb. Tall, vertical, sarcophagus-shaped but standing upright, suspended by thick cables or maybe roots. It's hard to tell anymore. And inside, her, again, or still, but not asleep this time. Not quite. Her eyes are open, wide, too wide, and glowing, faintly, like amethysts lit from within. The Queen, not dreaming, not dead, just watching. And the worst part? She recognizes you. You feel it. That flicker of acknowledgement deep in your spine. Like she's seen you before. Or maybe just knows how your story ends. You take one step forward, and the tomb reacts. Not violently, just sympathetically. The marble floor beneath your feet warms. The violet light pulses, and then her voice, inside your head. No echo, no reverb, just words. You came further than most, and then a second voice. Your own, from your own lips, even though you didn't open your mouth. I had to. You stare at the tomb, shocked. She speaks again. Not words now. Images. A ship. Not a boat. A starship. Crashing. Not in your time. In hers. She wasn't always a queen. She was a pilot. Or something close. She didn't rule Iram because she was chosen. She ruled because she fell into it. Literally. Historians still argue whether certain architectural features in ancient cities, especially those in the Middle East, suggest influence from outside the region. Most attribute it to trade. Some whisper about ancient astronauts. You're now firmly in the whisper camp, because she shows you what happened next. The ship, broken, her body damaged. The people of Iram, curious. They took her in, revered her, feared her, and in time, worshipped her. She didn't ask for this, but she didn't refuse it either. And when the others came, more like her, searching for what fell, they tried to stop the worship, tried to bury the knowledge, tried to erase the city. They failed. The queen with her followers built downward, built defenses, built reminders. She bound herself in stasis to guard the memory, to protect the truth. And now, she's waking up because you're here. And that changes things. You take another step toward the sarcophagus, and the walls respond. They shimmer, flicker, reform. Now you're standing not in the crypt, but in a hall. The hall of pillars. Back at the surface, but not ruined. Alive. Torches blaze. The air is filled with voices. Celebration. Then, explosions. Screams. The sky cracking open. You're inside the fall. the moment Iram was consumed. You see her again, arms wide, standing between her people and the void. And something answers. Something vast, cold, curious, and not entirely malicious. Just indifferent. It sees you too, and now you know. The queen didn't just rule Iram. She trapped something, or someone, inside herself, inside the city, inside this tomb. That's why it was buried. Not punishment, containment. And now you've come here, with keys, with knowledge, with the map. She looks at you from inside the tomb, and the words form again. You can open the door, and suddenly, it's in your hand. A stone, smooth, faintly pulsing, etched with a symbol you don't recognize, but your blood does. You feel it hum. The final chamber is near, and it wants you to use this. You don't know what it opens, but you're about to find out. Section 8. The stone in your hand pulses like a second heartbeat, slower than yours, but deeper. You're not sure where it came from, pocket, sleeve, memory, but it's there now. Perfectly weighted, perfectly warm. The symbol carved into its face glows faintly, and just holding it makes the hairs on your arms stand like desert grasses in a dust storm. Behind you, the queen's tomb fades again. Not visually, but conceptually. One moment it's there. The next, your mind refuses to focus on it. Like a dream slipping through a mental sieve. She's not gone. She's simply not yours anymore. You turn. Another staircase waits. This one descends at an angle that defies engineering. Steeper than logic. More spiral slide than architectural feature. But it's carved with intent. Each step holds a different glyph. You recognize some. Others feel like they're recognizing you. You descend. The air here doesn't shift. It holds. No wind, no movement. Just presence. You are now farther beneath the earth than any human was ever supposed to be. You know this instinctively, like how you somehow know when someone is staring at you from behind a window. And at the bottom, a door. It's not ornate, not grand. Just a slab of perfectly cut black stone. No hinges, no frame. Just door. Waiting. The symbol on the stone in your hand flickers once, then matches a glyph on the door's surface. You hold it out. A faint vibration. Then, a line appears across the door, glowing white like a paper cut made by lightning. The door opens. Upward. And the sound it makes, like a sigh that took 10,000 years to release. Inside, darkness. Then a flicker of pale green light. And then, you step into the library. That's the only word that fits. The space is endless. Columns stretch upward into shadow. Books, scrolls, tablets. Objects that refuse categorization. Line walls that curve and bend in ways that give Euclid a migraine. But there's no dust, no decay, only preservation. Whatever built this place wanted the knowledge to last, even if the people didn't. As you walk, the floor changes beneath you. Tile gives way to metal. Metal becomes something like glass, but flexible. Beneath your feet, lights dance in patterns that don't feel decorative. They respond to you. Each step sends ripples of data through the floor. Ahead, you see it. A table. Atop it, an orb. Simple. Stone. Floating exactly 2 inches above the surface. You approach, and the orb speaks. Not with sound, with memory. You see the queen again, but this time, as she was before. No crown, no title, just a traveler, a seeker. She tells you, without words, that Iram was not meant to be ruled. It was a beacon, a place of learning, of messages, of warnings. But when she arrived, the people saw her not as a guest, but a god. And she let them. Because the alternative was to reveal the truth, that she was fleeing something. Not a being, not even an enemy, but an idea, a fragment of consciousness, a pattern. A thought virus from beyond known space that infected civilizations through symbols, through language, through understanding. Iram became its final battleground, and she, its reluctant prison. That's what all of this was. Not grandeur, not ego, but a cage, built from myth, guarded by belief, and slowly, inevitably, forgotten, until the orb dims and the chamber changes again. Now you're standing before a mural, towering, brutal, honest. It shows the queen holding back a black wave made of eyes. Each eye is different, human, animal, alien, machine. She stands alone. But behind her, a door. And behind that door, nothing. Literal nothing. Not darkness, not death, erasure. It was never about survival. It was about keeping the idea locked in a place it could never spread. And now, that place is cracking. You feel it. The tremor under your feet. The sound of stone groaning far above you. The queen is waking because the idea is stirring. And you, brilliant, curious, narratively doomed human, just opened a door you didn't know was part of the cage. The orb pulses once more. And now, the final message. You must decide. And you understand. You have the choice. Leave. Forget. Let the sands reclaim this place again. Or stay. And carry the memory. Pass it on. Let the story live. But if you choose the second, it won't end with you. Because the idea will hear you. And it's always listening for a new storyteller. The library door opens behind you. And now you know, you're not just a visitor. You're a continuation. Section 9. You don't leave. Of course you don't. You step through the open door like you were always meant to, even though every rational part of you is screaming something between run and please reconsider your entire life. Too late. The corridor beyond the library is long and narrow, lit by rows of bioluminescent fungi, or possibly just rocks that decided to be fancy. The air smells like nothing, not clean, not stale, just neutral, like even oxygen is afraid to commit here. You follow the path until it forks into two arched tunnels. One is lit with pale blue light. The air flowing from it is cool, serene, almost gentle. It whispers of escape, rest, and the kind of forgetfulness you can fall into like a warm bath. The other is dim, red light, heavy air, the smell of stone and heat, and the faintest crackle of something electrical. And it's down that one that the footprints go. Bare, human, fresh. You already know which way you're going, because the other tunnel is mercy. And this story doesn't end with mercy. You follow the footprints, down. The tunnel spirals again, but this time the walls tighten. This isn't ceremonial. This is functional. You're moving through a system built to contain, to restrict. And now you hear it. A sound. Distant, regular. Breathing. But not yours. Not hers. Something else. You descend one final stair and enter the chamber before the gate. It's vast, circular again, because Iram has brand consistency. In the center, a structure like an iris, massive and mechanical, built into the floor. It pulses slowly. Each contraction sends a tremor through the air. The floor is covered in lines, not cracks, but veins. Veins of metal, of light, feeding into the iris gate. Surrounding it are 8 massive pylons, each etched with names in different languages. Some you recognize, others you feel. Each name belongs to a prisoner, and at the base of each pylon, a body, not corpses, shells, empty of thought. Their eyes are open, but they don't blink. And in the center of it all, hovering just above the iris, a spark. Small, dark, alive. You can't look at it directly. Your eyes slide off it. But it's there. You feel it watching. It's not a creature, not a god. It's an intention. And that's worse. You hear her voice again, clearer now. The breath that teaches. It has many names in many civilizations. The Babylonians called it the nameless whisper. The Greeks feared it as epistem thanatos, knowledge that kills. In every case, it is not evil. It is simply information. Too much. Too fast, too raw. It shows you truths you can't unknow, and it lives inside symbols, inside patterns, inside stories. You inch forward. The gate pulses harder now. The spark senses you. It knows what you are. A narrator, a spreader, a carrier. And suddenly, you understand everything. The queen wasn't just guarding Iram. She was filtering it, distilling the city's message into something digestible. Sleepy myths, whispers of ruins, legends half remembered, safe echoes. But now that you've seen too much, you're no longer safe. You are now loud in the frequencies it hears, and it wants out. You turn. The queen is behind you, not in body, but in shadow, her presence. Tall, silent, watching. She does not command. She waits, and you, brilliant, tired, loyal listener that you are, you ask the only question that matters. What do I do? The queen raises one hand, palm up. In it, the stone you thought you still had. It glows again. But now you see the second symbol beneath the first. You missed it before. The first opens the gate. The second closes it. Forever. You approach the iris. It quivers. It knows the spark inside flickers. It doesn't beg. It doesn't scream. It just offers a feeling. Understanding. If you step into it, you will know everything. Every secret. Every truth. Every reason. But you will never leave. Not as you. Not intact. You pause. Behind you, the queen waits. Not pushing. Just witnessing. Like she's done 1,000 times. You raise the stone. The spark pulses. One final time. Waiting for your answer. Section 10. You don't move. For a moment you're suspended. One foot in legend, the other in annihilation. The spark hovers, no larger than a moth, yet heavier than memory. It makes no threat, no sound, no plea. It simply exists, dense with unspeakable knowing. You've seen stars. You've seen ruins. You've seen a woman who may or may not be your species, watching time slide off her like water from obsidian. But this is what made her kneel. The queen stands behind you, the stone in her outstretched hand, like the final punctuation of a sentence older than words. She doesn't tremble. She doesn't speak. Her eyes are locked on yours. Those black-ringed galaxies of gaze, and you feel the question again. What do? You take the stone. Of course you do. It's warm, heavier than before. The first glyph pulses once, as if it recognizes your hesitation. But now you can see the second symbol beneath it. It's not carved. It's grown. Like a scar. And it's not a glyph in any language. It's a pattern. A spiral of interlocked eyes. Eyes that blink as you move. Eyes that track your breath. And one tiny break in the spiral. A crack. A way in or a way out. You step toward the gate. The iris begins to bloom petal by petal, layer by layer, revealing not a corridor or chamber or anything spatial. It reveals raw awareness. You feel it pressing against your thoughts, not invading, just waiting, like an ocean waiting for your foot to step off the boat. The spark is inside, bobbing slightly, curious, inviting. You lift the stone. One glyph opens it. The other closes it. Permanently. This is your choice, and you could toss the stone in, step back, and let the gate seal. Let the queen resume her slumber. Let Iram sink once more beneath the dunes. But you don't. Not yet. You ask. You turn to the queen, not out loud, just internally, and you ask the thing that's been clawing at your ribs since the first whisper in the sand. Why me? and she answers, not with language, but with mirroring. Because you were curious enough to follow the rumor. You were stubborn enough to ignore the fear. You were foolish enough to keep walking long after the smart choice had vanished behind the pillars. You are not the chosen one. You are not special. You are just open. And that makes you dangerous. You kneel. It's not dramatic, not religious, just instinct. The spark hovers lower, just inches from your forehead. And then it speaks with your own voice. Let me show you images, not like before, not fragments, everything. The birth of Iram, the stone ships from stars that never had names, the knowledge gifted in whispers, the corruption that wasn't corruption, but comprehension too fast for human neurons. The first translator whose eyes turned white and bled ink. The queen before she was queen, trying to bind it with myth, with ritual, with narrative. Stories as cages, metaphors as chains. But stories decay, and listeners forget. And now here you are. You understand now. The spark isn't the danger. You are because you know just enough to believe you understand. And that belief is a crack. You stand. The queen steps back. The gate pulses, and you press the stone to your heart. Not the spark, yourself. The glyph glows, then darkens, and you say aloud this time, just one sentence. This story ends with me. The gate sighs closed. The spark flickers once and disappears. You drop the stone. It shatters, like time giving up, and Iram breathes out. The chamber trembles, not in collapse, but in release. The pylons go dark, the walls relax. The queen, she smiles, just slightly, then turns and walks back into her tomb. You follow her, just for a moment, to the spiral staircase, but this time it leads up. You climb slowly. The walls are quieter now, the pressure gone. You reach the surface as dawn breaks. The ruins gleam gold in the morning light. Empty still, and somehow healed. You walk past the pillars, past the mosaic, past the bowl of figs still waiting in a room that should never have existed. And as you leave Iram behind, the sand begins to shift, gently, respectfully, covering the path, one footprint at a time. You don't look back. You don't need to. Because the city's gone now. Not forgotten. Just safe. And your story, it's no longer yours to tell. Section 11. The desert greets you like an old friend pretending it didn't just try to kill you. The heat rises again, gently now, not punishing. More like a hand on your shoulder, reminding you that, yes, this is still the earth. And no, it doesn't care about your existential revelations. You step out into the sun. Iram is already gone. Not in smoke or spectacle, just faded. As if the sand remembered where everything was supposed to be and politely erased the anomaly. You turn a slow circle, expecting, hoping for some final proof. A pillar, a whisper, maybe a sarcastic bird sitting on an alien artifact. Nothing. Just endless dunes shaped by wind and time, and your footprints. Still there, but not for long. You pick a direction. You're not even sure it's the right one, but the compass in your gut is calm. And after what you've been through, that's enough. As you walk, you replay everything. The Queen, the city, the spark, and that final phrase, "This story ends with me." It sounded noble when you said it, heroic, self-contained. But even now, the weight in your chest disagrees. Because here's the truth, it never ends. Not really. Because you remember. The glyphs, the voice, the sensation of the spark hovering just behind your eyes. You didn't step into it, but you touched it. You understood it. And understanding, that's a crack that never truly heals. You don't feel cursed, not exactly. You feel linked to a line of people who were never supposed to see too much, but did anyway. A lineage of listeners, of carriers, of those who walked too far, asked one too many questions, and found stories that were meant to stay buried. And now, it's your burden, or your gift, maybe both. You crest a dune and see a shimmer on the horizon. A truck, maybe real, maybe not. But it's something, and it's moving. Hope flutters in your chest like a desert bird disturbed from its perch. You pick up your pace, not running, just moving forward. As you walk, your mind starts crafting a version of this story that you can tell. The one with ancient ruins, yes, but also with plausible explanations, with caveats, with just enough doubt to be ignored. And for a moment, it almost feels manageable. Then a thought slips into your head. You didn't put it there, but it's shaped like you. It says, "She's not the only one." You stop. The wind catches your collar, tugging you gently forward. You take one more step and feel the ground shift under your foot, not collapsing, not caving in, just recognizing you. And now you know there are more cities, more truths, more cages, scattered across the world, waiting for someone reckless enough to listen. You stare at the horizon, eyes narrowed against the glare. You should feel small, insignificant. You don't. You feel necessary. A bridge between stories and silence. You keep walking, because this story didn't end with you. It just found a new direction. Section 12. Hours pass, or maybe longer. The desert doesn't measure time in minutes, only in sunrises and regrets. You reach the edge of a half-paved road just before the sky turns molten orange. The truck you spotted earlier is gone, if it was ever there. No matter. You've made it back to something resembling civilization. That counts as a win. Your phone still has no signal. Not surprising. But what does surprise you? Your boots are clean. Your water's half full. And your backpack feels lighter, like something was removed without your permission. You pause, pull it off, dig through it. Everything is where it should be, except the map. Gone. Not torn, not stolen, just absent. Erased like a chalkboard by a hand that only erases what you're no longer meant to carry. You sit down on the roadside, letting your legs rest, letting the weight of your choices catch up. It hits like a soft blanket rather than a boulder. Exhaustion with a hint of clarity. You stare into the horizon and feel it again. That sensation that you're not alone, even now. Not watched, not followed, just remembered. The Queen's face comes to you in flashes, always calm, always precise, never cruel. She didn't ask for worship. She didn't demand loyalty. She gave you something far worse, understanding, and now it's yours to carry, or bury, or twist into bedtime stories for people who'll never believe you. And that's the catch, isn't it? If you tell the truth, no one listens. If you lie, they'll share it. That's how myths survive. Not because they're true, but because they're told well. You reach into your jacket pocket, expecting nothing. But there it is. The ring. The one from the Chamber of Bones. The one etched with the phrase, "May I be worthy of her breath." You slip it on. It fits, too perfectly. You smile, just a little. Not because you're relieved, but because now you finally get the joke. You weren't chosen. You weren't special. You were just open. And that's all the breath needs. An open door. A vessel. You lean back, eyes on the fading sky. The stars are waking up, one by one. Some you recognize, some you don't. Yet. But you will. Oh, you will. Because sleep comes slowly now, and with it, stories. They always find you eventually, especially the ones that want to be forgotten. And just before you drift off, a voice soft as sand, deep as time. There are more doors. And you already know. You'll open every single one, eventually. The wind brushes against your cheek as if to say, "That's enough for tonight." Your body relaxes now, shoulders softening, breath settling into a gentler rhythm. The weight of Iram and everything it carried fades slowly from your limbs, like sand slipping off your skin after a long walk through a dream you weren't meant to survive. Let your thoughts drift now. Don't try to hold the images too tightly. The Queen, the spark, the chambers filled with secrets. They'll settle on their own, like dust returning to its place in the dunes. You don't have to understand it all. You were there. That's enough. Feel your fingers loosen. Let your jaw unclench. The desert is quiet now, and so are the stories. Even the breath, that strange, impossible breath, has gone still, like it's sleeping too. You're safe. More than that, you're outside the gate. The choices are behind you. The steps are done. All that's left is stillness. Let the calm in. Let it wrap around your spine, your ribs, your neck. Let your mind wander just a little through those spiraled corridors, not in search of answers, but to enjoy the silence they leave behind. You're not in Iram anymore. You're home. And tonight, you rest. No gates, no glyphs, No voices inside your head. Just the soft hum of your fan, the stillness of the room, and a story that knows how to wait until you're ready again. Sleep well, friend. You made it out, for now.